Fantastic. I love that music. I want to keep it going. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us, and welcome to those of you joining us from Eastern Europe and Ukraine and Russia, and those in Africa, several countries in Africa I see here. We got people joining late this evening from several spots in Europe, and of course, Brazil, Mexico, US. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Today's a momentous day for a number of reasons. First of all, it's December 1st. Who doesn't love December? Second of all, who doesn't want to see 2021 get here as fast as possible? I think we all can't wait to say goodbye to 2020. And this is the first day of the last month. So it's just around the corner. And third, today is the birth of Emile. Emile is our new platform at goFLUENT. We'll be talking a lot about it today. We're delighted that you're here to participate with us and learn more about Emile. It really is a groundbreaking new technology for language learning in general. But I think you'll see that it really builds on our legacy, that goFLUENT's history has been built on combining and blending content, great content, with great technology and great human interaction to provide a very differentiated learning experience, language learning experience, and one that can scale across the enterprise. So we're delighted to share with you everything that's new about Emile, and there's a lot to talk about. The agenda today is really simple. They actually allowed me a few words to start it off and provide some context on the global talent landscape, how language learning is really inextricably tied to global talent, and what are some of the trends that we see around the corner, and really use that as a context, as a jumping off point for talking about Emile and why we've invested so heavily in this new technology platform, this new content and approach. And we'll spend some time going through it, show you how the platform works, and we'll save enough time to do some Q&A at the end. So thanks again for joining us. I'm really joined here by two distinguished speakers. So I'm John Ambrose, and I've been with goFLUENT now for about 2.5 years. And prior to that, spent 18 years at Skillsoft. So know the e-learning space very, very well. And I've actually met a number of you who are on this call today and have worked with you in the past, and appreciate you joining. We also have the CEO, the visionary, the founder of goFLUENT, Chris Ferrandou. And Chris will speak in a few minutes and really dig into Emile, which he's been the inspiration for the organization. And Emma Bartlett. Emma is our customer success manager extraordinaire, and deals with many of our largest clients around the world, helping them with their language learning needs. Again, implementing programs at great scale that can impact and improve so many people across these large organizations. So let me start by just making a statement that I don't think anyone could argue with. The year 2020 is the year the world changed. So much has happened this year. And I'd like you to just take a moment and think back to this day in 2019, December 1st, 2019. You may not remember exactly where you were, exactly what you were doing. I know in my own case, I was getting ready for a trip to Milan. We're having a large corporate meeting in Milan, and a number of people flying in from many different parts of the world. But the world has changed, right? Our ability to move, our ability to hop on an airplane so easily and cross borders and interact with other people, to go to dinner, very basic things. And Microsoft has remarked that, so much digital transformation has taken place. It's as if 5 years worth of digital transformation has been achieved in only 10 or 11 months. So a remarkable amount of change. And I think we all feel it, we all see it. We know that this change has affected the way we work, the way we teach our children, the way we recruit. I know for me here at goFLUENT, I've hired 2 people recently without ever meeting them face to face, all remote. And I've got several other folks that I'm recruiting and onboarding in the same fashion. So it's changed everything, and it's also changed communication. Because what we're doing right now, the act of hopping on to a live session with webcams and synchronous communication, all done digitally, is something that has, well, it's been around for a while. It's really reached the point where it's become ubiquitous. We're using it every day, multiple times a day. This is the new mode of communication. And it's interesting because in the physical world, there are many nonverbal cues that help us make points and communicate with one another. And even if you have language challenges, those nonverbal cues can help you get through a conversation. They can help you express your point of view. With Zoom, there is no place to hide. With Microsoft Teams, there's no place to hide. You know, your communication skills are now on display. And to me, it really raises the stakes for how organizations think about language and think about language skilling. So let me play a little experiment on you. There's people joining here from all over the world. I can see from the list that some of you are native English speakers. I know some of you, and some of you are non-native English speakers. And I'd say that there are three reasons you probably joined this webinar today. The first one, obviously the topic was relevant. You saw something in this topic that was interesting to you, whether you're a customer of goFLUENT, potential customer of goFLUENT, interested in language learning, but the topic grabbed you and you wanted to join. The second reason you may be here may not be very obvious at all and probably didn't even cross your mind if you're a native English speaker. The fact that this webinar is in English means that if you're a native English speaker, there was no barrier for you. And if you're a non-native English speaker, you're confident enough in your own English skills to join the webinar and get what you need out of it. Thirdly, you joined because this is effectively a low stakes environment, right? We're doing all the talking, you're doing the listening, you might even be multitasking, doing one or two things at the same time, but it's low stakes. So the experiment's this. Imagine I push the button now, and instead of this being a one-way webinar, we turn it into an interactive session. We start talking together. And it's mandatory to participate. I want everyone to tell us a little bit about themselves, about their background, their history, why they're interested in language learning. I won't do the experiment. I only did it to prove a point. That the moment we talk about taking this webinar to an interactive level, even if I was joking, your anxiety level might be creeping up. Now, for the native English speakers, maybe it's not creeping up so much, but if I said, hey, let's do this webinar in French, well, I know my own anxiety level is going to go way up, and I suspect my colleagues who speak English natively would feel the same. So language does affect the way we communicate, and it does affect the way we express ourselves and are understood. So let me share with you some numbers, because I think these are really, really important. There are 8 billion people living on our planet, 8 billion people. And if I asked you, of those 8 billion people, how many speak English, not just as a first language, but as a second, third, or even fourth language, wonder what number you'd come up with. I mean, some of you might say 5 billion, 4 billion. I mean, English is pretty pervasive. It's the language of the net. We use it so many places. We watch these movies with English language. But the real number might surprise you. You know, less than 20%, less than 1.5 billion people on the planet speak English as a first, second, third, or fourth language. So it's a relatively small percentage of the talent pool of the world, the number of people on the planet. It might surprise you further to see how many people speak English natively. You know, only 5% of the planet speaks English natively. And there's really two takeaways from that. One is that native speakers don't own the English language anymore. It's a global language. And there are many people who speak it, whether at a conversational level or a higher proficiency level, but it is no longer just owned by the native English speakers. And secondly, that with this small portion of the population speaking English natively, large multinational organizations can't expect just hire their way to an English-speaking global workforce. And we know that English is the lubricant of business, of global business. It's the lingua franca. It's the way that people are expected to communicate, especially across borders. So it's imperative that English language be a skill set that's used within an organization. In fact, many organizations will declare English as their official language, even if they're not based in an English-speaking country. It's that important. And if it's that important, we really need to think about what we're doing as organizations to prepare people to be able to improve that skill set, because it's so critical. And it's not just critical today. There's a great quote from Harvard Business Review that talks about the virus isn't confined by borders, and neither is talent in a virtual world, which means that this notion of language, this notion of being able to communicate efficiently on a global basis is also without borders. And we really need to recognize that talent is now untethered from physical location. That more people are working remotely means there's higher stakes to people being able to communicate effectively and efficiently with a language that may not be their native tongue. And I want to share a chart with you that really points the way to the future. For the next 10 years, the next decade, we're undergoing a dramatic shift in talent pools throughout the world. If you look at countries in Europe, the US, Japan, the developed Western economies, they're all not just aging, but the percentage of active English speakers in the workforce is decreasing. At the same time, the developing countries of the world, places like China, India, Brazil, Indonesia, are expanding in terms of their participation in the workforce. We've got an increasing number of younger, eager to participate in the global economy people who, by accident of birth, may have been born into a country where English isn't the native tongue, but have some conversational skills, or aspire to have conversational skills, or aspire to have business proficiency to be able to improve their own standing in life. And this is where the talent pool of the next decade is coming from. And it's not just a talent pool issue. This is also where some of the largest consumer markets in the world are for the next 10 years. So if you are a Chinese company, or a German company, or an American company, and you're moving into Brazil, setting up a factory, you not only need English skills potentially to help upskill your Brazilian workforce in English, but you may need Portuguese language skills to help skill some of your managers and supervisors who may be relocating to Brazil to help with the factory or manage people in that factory. So business language skills are becoming more and more critical as the years move on and this global economy continues to pick up steam. Now I want to bring it down one level, because many of you work for very large organizations. And if you think about an organization that's, let's call it a global multinational with 100,000 employees, that size of a company is likely to be in 50, 60, 70 countries. So let's, for the purpose of this example, let's just say 50 countries. If they're in 50 countries and have 100,000 total employees, at least half of their employees are non-native English speakers. That means 50,000 of the 100,000 employees are non-native English speakers. And if you take that population and map it statistically, it will shape like a bell curve. And if you take a line and draw it down the middle of that bell curve, that would represent the median of the bell curve. And for our purposes here, let's just call that the average. And if you do that, in this company of 100,000 employees, a big multinational company with employees all over, smart employees, it's a big company. They're a prestigious company to work for. They attract great employees. But when they do, you look at that population, 50,000 are non-native English speakers, and at least half of that population have median or average to lower proficiency in English. It means 25% of the overall population of the company could struggle when it comes to communicating ideas, expressing their thoughts, leading conference calls, answering emails, giving advice and giving guidance to employees. It's a huge issue. And two things can result from that. One is employees can get frustrated if there's no solution to help them develop their language skills. They get frustrated and they leave. That creates a retention issue or an attrition issue. And as everyone knows, it's much more expensive to replace an employee than it is to retain an employee and develop someone over time. So either they get frustrated and leave, or they stay. And if they stay and they don't have the opportunity to develop these essential skills, they become disengaged. They're not performing at their highest potential. They're not delivering to the organization at the level they should be. And the organization isn't getting the maximum potential from these individuals. So it's a lost opportunity. So I want to leave you with this thought as we kick it over to Emile, and that is that language is the single most important global skill. And it's the single most important skill because it's fundamental to every other type of e-learning that we do, whether it's compliance, business skills, leadership skills, IT skills. Language is really critical for people to be able to understand and absorb other forms of e-learning training that's already done on a global scale. But it's also important for individuals to reach their full potential and for organizations to grow talent across borders and across the world. It's really a two-way street. There's benefits both ways, double the ROI, however you want to look at it. But companies that invest in language skills are preparing themselves for this talent migration that's happening around the globe, and they're giving back to their employees, and they're growing their talent pool at the same time. So with that, I want to transition over to Chris, who's been patiently standing by, and I know he's eager to give birth to Emile. So Chris, take it away.
Thank you, John. Thank you very much. And thank you everyone for being with us today from all over the world, and really grateful for that. And I am extremely delighted to be the one who has this, this chance to introduce Emile to you. But before this, you may ask, why did we name our new portal Emile? Why Emile? And with a French accent is Emile. Emile is named after one of the earliest books on education since the Greek Philosophers. It's a book written by an inspiring Swiss autodidact, Jean-Jacques Rousseau. Jean-Jacques Rousseau with a good French accent. So for goFLUENT, Rousseau's book essentially represents empowering learners to follow their own individual learning paths rather than following a common course. When it was published, Emile was condemning traditional education and was very controversial. And just like the book, our Emile challenges traditional education, which resonates even more in this year of change. So it is now time for me to introduce our most powerful innovation yet, Emile. And that is taking hyper-personalized content, interaction, human interaction, and technology to you. And to do that, and before doing that, sorry, I just want to give you a brief history of the language learning innovation that took place at goFLUENT in the past 20 years. Language learning has been our passion. It's the passion of everyone at goFLUENT. And why is that? And this is because we believe in our mission to provide everyone an equal voice. Because everyone deserves the opportunity to conduct business and casual conversation with other language speakers without feeling inferior. Also because language should never create barriers between people or organizations. And because access to language improvement, we know it builds confidence, empowers career growth, and really transform lives. And this is why we have worked so hard in the past 20 years to innovate, to accelerate language learning. Emile is a result of client-centered design, incorporating invaluable input from some of the largest global companies in the world that have trusted goFLUENT for many years. And I would like to thank them again. goFLUENT is also the result of data patterns from tens of millions of user interactions that we have analyzed again and again to build an intelligent platform. And today, Emile is a platform so advanced that the right content literally finds a user instead of the user finding the content. I would like now to present a few key features and benefits of Emile with the support of Emma, our super talented customer success manager.
Thanks, Chris. Hi, everyone. It's great to be with you today. So let me tell you a little bit more about the technology that is powering our brand new portal. So this past year, we have been developing a new platform that is powered by AI technology that is allowing users to have a more personalized experience. So nowadays, we're used to using platforms such as Spotify or Netflix, where the experience is powered by recommendations that are based on series or films that we've watched or music that we've listened to. And this type of experience provides the user with a more personalized experience, but also one that is more relevant to their interests. And this is exactly how we have developed our new portal. So we can now recommend directly on a learner's homepage content which is based on the learner's goals, their interests, their job role, and also helps to better engage the learner in their language training. So all in all, this allows the learner to save time, as less time is spent trying to find resources that would be useful for them, as we can recommend directly content that is applicable to their needs. I'm moving over to content. So today we do already have an extensive catalogue of business and job related content, which we're constantly developing to ensure that all learners have content that is directly relevant to their personal training. And now we'll be adding even more job and business skill courses in English and in other languages to help your employees to develop their skills in today's very competitive job market. In addition to this, we will continue to publish content on current business topics such as crisis management or virtual meetings, for example. And these training courses will be published on our portal every 2 months, but resources will also be updated on a weekly basis.
Christophe?
Sorry, yes. Sorry. Thank you, Emma. So I'd like to tell you a bit about the new way of delivering lessons, video conference lessons. In the past few years, we have seen a growing usage of video conferencing during live lessons with our trainers. However, what we are seeing now is really an even bigger transformation of our entire industry, with really a massive shift right now from classroom training face-to-face to this new type of more modern, flexible, interactive lessons. And whether it be for individual lessons or group lessons. And while this is something we have been providing with our own technology since 2012, we have actually now and expanded our offer for this new type of lessons through Microsoft Teams. And why? It's because Microsoft Teams has taken a very large market share among our largest global customers. And with Emile and the seamless integration of Microsoft Teams, learners can easily book their lessons or join group lessons with other learners from the same company right on Emile. This saves you the cost of investing in administrative support, travel time, transportation, physical classroom, and you get an even better and more immersive lesson experience in addition. 2020 is a year of transformation for the classroom training. And Emile with Microsoft Teams, we offer a robust and seamless solution to our clients.
Thanks, Chris. So as we develop more content and also new technology, we also want to make sure that we address other challenges that speaking English can have in global organizations. So we've developed two new and important types of training, the first of which is accent refinement. So this will be a new type of training for non-native English speakers who wish to work on improving clarity and pronunciation. There will be 4 levels of courses available and also specialized trainers to support each learner in their journey. And secondly, and a personal favorite of mine, is English for native English speakers. So when we work in a global organization and English is the official company language, sometimes the hardest people to understand are the native speakers. We do have a tendency to use colloquial language or idiomatic expressions, and these can be difficult to understand for non-native speakers. So this is why we've brought out this specific training to help native speakers to use various techniques to simplify their language, control the speed, and avoid using expressions that could lead to misunderstandings. This is, of course, what we believe to be a very important skill in the workplace and also one that we often overlook.
And of course, with the launch of Emile, we remain faithful to our DNA. And part of this DNA is about the importance of the mobile experience for our learners. We have this mobile first design in mind when we build our portal and our tools. We see the trend, we see what is going on and what our users are expecting. Part of our DNA is also about the goal to always give access to all our content to our learners. All the content is available to them because we want to let them grow their talent without any limitations. And this is also why we keep adding more languages. And we now offer actually 9 languages, content for 9 languages, as we have just launched and added Dutch and Russian to our offering. And I cannot speak of our DNA without talking about the importance for us to make our content, our access to our portal easily accessible for our learners. And this is why we have invested so much on the ability to integrate with LMS and LXPs, and also to build those very strong partnerships with the leading vendors in the space. Nowadays, this integration process with an LMS or LXP, it really became, with goFLUENT, really seamless and can be implemented extremely quickly, much faster than what you can think. Yes, the world changed. And Emile is a result of 20 years of extremely hard work to build a platform that accelerates language learning. A platform that will help so many of us to break what we call at goFLUENT the language glass ceiling. Because yes, language can be a roadblock to personal career growth, as well as for organization who are trying to recruit and grow talent at scale. And this is also to be fair to our DNA and philosophy, that all the content that you have discovered today, everything new you have learned today, is made available to all our learners, to all our users, because we want everyone to get access to accent refinement, English for native speakers, additional languages, new job-related content, and all that on this new platform on Emile. And it is available to all our users. Yes, because we want to provide everyone an equal voice. This is what Emile is for. And I'm proud to say, welcome to the world, Emile.
So if you are as excited as we are for the release and launch of Emile today, do feel free to click on the link that's just been shared in the chat at the bottom of your screen. You can book a private demo with our team and even set up a free pilot. So feel free to, as I said, the link has just been shared in the chat at the bottom of your screen. In the meantime, I think we can move over to the questions. So you do have the question and answers option again at the bottom of your screen. So do feel free to send over your questions. We'll be more than happy to answer them. It looks like we've already received a few so far. Let me have a little look. Okay, so this question I've chosen first is regarding the English training for native English speakers. Perhaps, John, I can give you this one. So can you tell me more about this training?
Sure. As a native English speaker, yes, I can tell you that I need it very, very much. Yeah, the history of this is really interesting because I don't think he realizes it, but Josh Burson was the inspiration for this product. Josh forwarded me a bit of obscure academic research that talked about the impact of when different types of English speakers communicate. And the research talked about if you take 5 people who are non-native English speakers, maybe one from, pick 5 countries, Russia and China and Brazil and Mexico and Poland, and put 5 people together and ask them to have a conversation in English. Their English skills may be, some may be better than others. They'll have a conversation, but they'll talk in very direct language in short sentences. And even though they may struggle with some things, they will understand each other, have a working understanding when they leave that conversation. If you throw an American, a Brit, or an Australian into that conversation, this research shows that the whole dynamic changes, that the native English speakers tend to dominate the conversation. They tend to use more flowery prose. They tend to use expressions that other people can't figure out. And the result is that it results in more miscommunications, higher cost of redos, potential risks of misunderstanding in the workplace, and ultimately is counterproductive because you have this mixed environment of native speakers and non-native speakers trying to understand one another. So we've invested in creating this new solution, which is rather unique. I think this probably got to be the first commercial product out there that really focuses on helping native English speakers better attune their speech patterns, their cadence, their word choice, their use of expressions, especially when they're in a conversation with colleagues who may be in other parts of the globe. I know I was in a meeting one day with a very smart friend of mine who I admire greatly. He's not a native English speaker, but we're in a variety of meetings all day long. And in the last meeting, the native English speakers we were with, somebody mentioned the straw that broke the camel's back. And I didn't think anything of it. I'm involved in the conversation. It just went right past me. And my friend who was with me afterwards said, can you explain one thing to me? And this is somebody who has a very strong command of the English language, uses it in business day in and day out, is very top of the food chain in terms of English skills. He said, what was that discussion about the camel and the straw that broke its back, and where did the camel come from, and what did it mean? And he said he was distracted for 5 minutes in the conversation because he was trying to process this expression, this one small expression that as native speakers we would throw into conversation quite naturally. It can really be a derailment for people who are not as familiar with some of the American expressions or British expressions, etc. So this product for native English speakers really tries to address that, and further makes our overall platform that much more appealing on a global basis, on an enterprise basis. There's something for everyone in Emile, whether you're a native English speaker who's trying to improve your communication skills with non-native English speakers, with colleagues in other parts of the world, or whether you are a native English speaker who wants to improve. Maybe you had some German in high school and your company just acquired a company in Germany, and you're going to be spending more time dealing with German colleagues, and you want to be more culturally aware and be able to communicate and practice your German. Maybe you're somebody who, by accident of birth, wasn't born as a native English speaker, but have very good command of the language and want to improve. There's something for everyone in Emile, and that's what makes it so delicious as a product. Yeah, the English for native English speakers is getting a lot of attention because we don't often think of that as a roadblock to corporate collaboration and corporate communication. But this academic research that Josh sent shows that it really can be.
Definitely have to agree with you, John.
Thought you would.
After 8 years in France, I have to agree. It's a very important skill. So we've got some other questions here. They seem to be pretty much around the same topic. So this goes back to our video conferencing that is now available via Microsoft Teams. One of the questions here says, do you think that video conferencing will replace traditional classroom training, or is this only applicable during the current pandemic? Chris, should I hand this one over to you?
I would love to. I love it. I mean, the shift towards video conferencing is not new. It actually started, really 10 years ago. Although I have to confess that, the initial very first version of goFLUENT 20 years ago was actually a website for trainers to deliver lessons through NetMeeting. NetMeeting was the very first video conferencing product of Microsoft. So that's how goFLUENT started. But we soon realized that it was too early. I mean, internet bandwidth was not the same. The product was, it was way too early. But that's how we started. And after 10 years, when we started to see, the mobile phones coming, bandwidth, and yeah, we launched our solution, our own solution, own technology. But the adoption was not that fast. It has not been super fast. And I have to confess that, a few years ago, I was still not turning on the webcam very often when I was doing my internal calls with a computer. It was not, something that we would always do. I always was very skeptical to use a phone with a webcam, and who wants to see my nose? And I was all wrong on that. And now, when I do an internal call, it would be for me very weird not to turn on the webcam. I would even find it honestly disrespectful for others not to turn on the webcam, which again is so different from a few years ago. So what I mean is, we have, seen in the past 10 years this gradual shift from classroom training to video conferencing. But with the pandemic, with what happened, it has accelerated dramatically. And everyone has changed its relationship with this little webcam here. It's there for everyone. We're used to it on our mobile phone. So we are used to it. Learners are used to it. Organizations are used to it. And the benefits they get by using that for their classroom training or over presential or classroom training, the benefits to do it online are so big that we think that even after the pandemic, the vast majority of our clients will want to stay on this new way of delivering and taking their lessons. It doesn't mean that classroom presential training will be completely over. It will be different for a specific group of learners, but massively, I think, we will end up staying on the video conferencing approach for a very big part of the market. And this pandemic has just accelerated the shift. I don't think there will be a real way back.
Thanks, Chris. So moving on to some other questions that we have here. So we have one here related to global strategy when it comes to language learning. So the question is, our company does some language learning locally. What are the advantages of taking a more centralized approach? John?
Okay, sure. Thanks, Emma. It's a great question. And I think that's a lot of companies have thought about language learning as a local issue. And frankly, this is the old way of thinking about language learning. It's what I call sort of the remediation approach, right? Let's, in a large company, try to find and pick out just the individuals who really, really, really need this and give it to them. As opposed to thinking about language skills as an empowering approach and enabling approach that really gives every employee an opportunity to improve the language skills that are most relevant to them. And I think that because that was the traditional way, and frankly, I think part of it evolved because in each country or each city, there was a local face-to-face training provider that the company could send people to. It was easy and convenient. It was expensive, but it was local. The problem with that approach is that in a large company that might be in 50 different countries or 50 different regions, you now have 50 people within your organization doing the same thing, managing the same type of process over and over and over again, with 50 different vendors, with no consistency, with no KPIs, with no transparency into reporting and the real business impact of the learning. So there's a tremendous advantage to rethinking language learning as a centralized business process and approaching it in a way that you can take advantage of the investments that the organization has already made in LMS, LXP, and deliver a solution like Emile to everyone in the organization very cost effectively, and have the reporting and the KPIs and the linkages to performance plans and talent ladders and all the things that really make business learning so important. But most importantly, you also get great economies of scale across the globe when you centralize the approach. So yeah, we talked about the shift, this demographic shift across the world. Companies that want to prepare for that shift and want to be nimble and agile and be able to grow a workforce that has the language skills and the communication skills needed for this shift, really should be looking at a centralized model. In fact, one point, I get very passionate on this point. So, a company would not, or typically does not, allow each country or each region to go out and license its own LMS, its own LXP. I mean, we centralize technologies and core skills e-learning for a reason. And I think language learning has just fallen under the radar in years past because of some of the other convenient solutions which are dead. I mean, face-to-face training, for all intents and purposes, has been changed forever. We're not going back. American expression, the genie's not going back in the bottle. So a centralized, logical approach to thinking about and prioritizing language skills development really is critical for the next decade of talent development.
Thanks, John. Some really great questions that we're receiving here. So we have someone who's asking about the content and the languages available. So it says that Emile seems to be very focused on English training. What are the different content options for other languages, such as French and Portuguese, etc. Chris, can I give that one to you?
Yes, of course. We have offer over 9 languages available today in the platform, and we will keep adding additional languages over and over again. We don't want to limit ourselves. We are in the process of adding about 2 languages per year. So we are working on the, working and picking the 2 ones for next year. But this year is about Russian and Dutch that we just added.
Thanks, Chris. And over here we have a question about accent refinement. So you mentioned accent refinement, which sounds quite interesting for our organization. Can you tell us a little bit more about this offering? John, can I hand this to you?
Accent refinement, yes, another product I can benefit from greatly. Yeah, we found actually about a year ago, we were approached by a very important clients who had a very specific need in the area of language refinement. They had a team of people who had good command of business English, but we're not from a country where English is spoken with a heavy accent. And they, because these people were in a mission critical role, they really were encouraging them to improve and have more of an international accent approach. So to be better understood. So we collaborated with them and built out this product. And since then, interest has really exploded. And we've decided to incorporate it in with Emile and make it available to everyone. And accent refinement is different than learning a language. You learn a language by building vocabulary and sentence structures and starting to piece words together and phrases and so on. And it's a lot of application of the language. When you progress up the language chain, you can get to a very high level of proficiency, but still have trouble being understood because your accent could get in the way. And I have a very good friend in Scotland who comes to mind every time I think about this because the Scottish accent can be very difficult, even though he's a sort of quote unquote native English speaker. So accent can be an impediment to being understood. And it's not just executives, but there are certainly executive audiences that can benefit from this or non-native English speakers, but help desks and service desks and high potential employees and mid-level managers who are managing international teams and salespeople, et cetera. And the science behind accent refinement is very interesting because we really focus on the physics of the mouth, the tongue, the muscles, how you breathe, how you pronounce sounds like the schwa sounds, the V sound. Certain languages can be a challenge for people. So it's a very comprehensive selection of content, accented with human trainers that are specialists in these areas. Many have advanced certifications from industry bodies focused specifically on accent refinement. So it's, if you progress to the point where you can hold business conversations in English, but you're still having trouble being understood, accent refinement can really help you, regardless of what your native accent is. It could be a US accent that can be hard to understand. It can be a British accent or an accent from another part of the world. Very cool product, a lot of interest in this.
And we have the living proof that it's extremely efficient because we have a few colleagues at goFLUENT who knows everything about English, the vocabulary, the grammar, everything is just perfect, except the accent. That has been a big challenge for some of us. And they have changed, it is working.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely. We have to think of those Hollywood stars that need this training before going on the big screen sometimes.
Yeah, actually on that point, Emma, I had a conversation with Elliot Mazie about this time last year, in fact, and those who know Elliot know that in addition to being a guru in the learning space, he's also a producer on Broadway. He invests in and produces some different Broadway theater shows. And he was telling me a story about, you know, for one of the shows they were doing, they had to bring in an accent specialist to help this actress have a credible accent. I forget exactly what accent it was, but she was a native English speaker and needed to have an accent. And he said the amount of money that they spent on this accent specialist to help this one individual acquire a credible accent in, you know, 6 weeks or whatever it was astronomical. So, you know, dealing with accent is a challenge. And in the business world, I know we can all think of examples of business conversations we've been in where, you know, we either personally have struggled or we've struggled to understand someone who had a thick accent.
Definitely. So I think we have got time just for one last question here, which will nicely wrap up what we've discussed today. So we've got a question about the LMS and LXP integration. Chris, maybe I could send this one over to you. So does having an LMS or LXP integration really improve the user experience?
Thank you, Emile. It's another question I like. I love talking about, you know, integrations. Maybe the first thing I would say is that things have changed also a lot on this in the space. I think, you know, there were a lot of, you know, I would say frustrations with you know, customers, users of those big LMS a few years ago, because they really had a poor experience on mobile devices. Their app, their apps were really, you know, poor and not driving engagement. And I don't know if it's because LXPs came with, you know, super strong focus on mobile or whatever, you know, happened, but it has changed. And now we see a very strong trend on really delivering a good mobile experience, even for the LMS and for the LXP vendors, obviously. And there is, you know, more and more, you know, focus put on the user experience, on the design, on the UX. So learners, employees are starting to, I would even say, to like and enjoy, you know, using their LMS, which was not the case maybe 5-10 years ago. So there is a change there. And so with increased usage of those LMS, of course, employees are expecting to see their, you know, what the training that they are looking for. And because language learning is a very big part of the needs at a global scale for a global organization, because the needs are really huge, they really expect to find that. So you have a lot of employees going on their LMS and looking for language learning. So yes, we have to be there. I mean, if they cannot find us there, it's going to be a lot harder for us to get them to go on the portal and to learn and improve their language communication skills. So it has to be important to be embedded in their main LMS or training tool. And also because we want to make sure that it's extremely seamless and simple for every employee to access learning content. So yes, it is very important. And now I would say nowadays, almost every large customer who is working with us now is doing an integration with the LMS or LXP, and we are getting good at it. We make it fast and seamless, really, I mean it. And the trend is massive. I mean, it's almost every large customer does this integration. And when we see the usage after and the results, we know that it is working and it is the right way to go.
Thanks, Chris, and thank you everyone for your great questions. It's been a pleasure to present Emile to you today. As shared in the chat box, please do feel free to book a demo with us or set up a free pilot. We'd be more than happy to support this. Our team will get in touch with you. If we haven't answered your questions today, we will make sure to send you an email with the response. Have a great day, a great evening, and again, thank you for spending this time with us today.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
you.
Au
Have a good rest
revoir.
of your day. Bye.
Bye-bye.